Heyo everybody, Haku here with my live reaction read-through for Omniscient Reader or Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, chapters 113, 114, and 115 at least. If they're really short, I can maybe do more, but I'm already late this week, so gonna just stick to, my three is like my typical minimum, so I'm excited to read. I am so excited to get into this arc, because when we kind of got into the idea, the concept of bringing back the previous regression Yusung, adult Yusungs. I think it's easier to just call her adult Yusung. Previous regression works as well. You get my point. You know who I'm referring to. Bringing her soul back, when we got into that concept, I was like, okay, that's probably something way down the line. But instead, we're like, oh no, we're going to this right now. And I love when Omniscient Reader just decides, okay, we're going to do something crazy and out of the box. And going to the Greek underworld is one of those things. I think that's really, really cool. And every time we've done stuff like that in the past, it's always been some of the best stuff in ORV. Also, just the idea, it's also always been some of the best stuff to me. If you're asking me the parts of ORV so far that I remember the most fondly, that I love the most, or that stuck with me the most at least, the things that pop into my head, for whatever reason, this first one I think people really aren't gonna agree with as much. One of the first things that pops into my head is just the stuff with Dokcha and Be Young and the belly of the ichthyosaur. For some reason, when it comes to early ORV, that stuck with me the most. I most remember and most fondly remember just the Dokcha trying to survive in the belly, making the deal with Be Young, that stuff. And then after that, I would say it's when they all get separated and we have just Dokcha for a while, but he quickly meets up with Sooyoung, and the Dokcha Sooyoung stuff, of course, we get more characters wrapped in like Yoo Jung-hyuk and everybody else. But again, that's the second, big thing that really stuck with me, and I was like, oh, that was like so fun, like such a fun part of the story to me. While I've really liked ORV overall and think it keeps getting better and better, those are just parts that stick out to me as I had a lot of fun reading those parts. And then, of course, we get into the stuff that we just had with the big climax of the Catastrophe of Flood stuff, which, again, people were hyping up as very good and was just very good. But again, when we had Dokcha get separated from the others and he was on his own, we had him interacting with Be Young, then him meeting Hui Won. That was one of the one of the sections of best stuff. Then he gets separated from the others again, meets up with Sooyoung and then Jung-hyuk, and again, that was another stretch of some of the best stuff. So now to have him get separated from the others once again, and now meeting up with Namwoon, who I thought was important to the story so far, because the whole timeline is different, and he's constantly being brought up where, oh, the timeline has changed here and it's changed here, and there are characters that would recognize him, or he would have had this influence on this, and he was so important despite being dead, despite being not here, and now we're actually having him brought back. And I think it'd be really, really cool if he is somebody who hasn't been here for this survival game, but instead has been surviving in the Greek underworld, and then he gets to come back with Dokcha somehow. Like maybe if he's bringing back Yusung, he brings back Namwoon as well, and we have this Namwoon who's really just a totally different person at this point from the Namwoon that Dokcha knew of from the novel. I think that that would be such an interesting thing to do too. I'm just so excited for this journey, and also just the concepts that we get into. One of the big concepts that I've talked about constantly throughout reading is, the whole fiction versus reality stuff. And what I love here is that, and getting further into that, in ORV, I think the point that we get is that in the world of ORV, it's both and neither, but I'll explain that in a second. What I love is we find out that every version of the afterlife exists, and if a Korean guy got sent to the Greek mythos afterlife, then I guess it doesn't have to do with where you're born. Maybe it has to do with how you die to a certain extent, but even then it's like, really? maybe it's random. You just get sent to a random afterlife, or maybe the constellations who are in charge of that sort of thing, like we know Hades, god of the underworld and everything, maybe Hades and all the other ones that rule all the other afterlives are kind of just making deals and stuff, like, okay, I get this many souls, then you get this many souls. Maybe there's some sort of system behind it. But I think what we see in the world of ORV is that the line between fiction and reality doesn't really exist, because to us as readers of ORV, it's all fictional. To Dokja, there are some things that are fictional, but it's like all of these different fictions are real. And the line is especially blurred because things that are fiction, like the story he read, TWSA, can become real. So things that he read, things that were fictional, can become real, and things that were real, at least to him, can become fictional, like characters or people that weren't in the story, so they weren't characters to him, becoming characters. So things that were real can become fictional, things that are fictional can become real. His entire fourth wall ability is something that wears thin, and he starts to get extremely immersed at times. And sometimes he thinks of these people as characters and this as a story that he's living through, and sometimes he sees them and it as reality. I think in ORV, everything is real. Like, in a sense, any kind of fiction is real. Anything that people might think of or believe can become real, which makes it potentially real. Like, everything is Schrodinger's reality. Everything is either like both fictional and real, until like proven otherwise. And then of course even then it doesn't matter, because it can waver between fictional and reality. But it's just so cool to think that like all the different afterlives exist, all the different, like, oh, this set of gods, this set of gods, this set of gods, all of them exist. Like, all of this stuff exists, and it just sort of, it's like planes overlapping. So it's very, very, very cool, and I love getting into this stuff. I love getting into these concepts and dealing more with this. And we see like how the planes overlap, and it's not like what you immediately think of, like they're building robots in Hades underworld. But either way, I've let you on with a long Haku intro, so let's start reading chapter 113. We have them pretending to work, because of course we got cliffhung last time with Namwoon being like, oh, the supervisors or whatever they were called are coming. And then they're moving through. Here they come. Pick up the hammer. A robot? And it's a small one. We get a shot of them. Okay. 3 Promises Part 6. They move up some stairs. And it seems like not only Namwoon, but it just feels like everyone is kind of eyeing them and weary of them. Huh? Why are you looking at me like that? Didn't anything come to mind when you saw me? What do you mean? Oh, you're scared of me, aren't you? Worried I might try to get revenge on you. Again, it's not the Namwoon that he knew of in the story, because this Namwoon hasn't gone through those things that the Namwoon in the story went through. He's gone through a completely different experience. And then, right? He was much more of a psychopath than Jungkook in the novel. Of course I'm scared. Look how the look in his eyes changes on the dime like that. Well, there's no need for that, since both of us are dead now. And I've changed a lot since I got here. And Dok's just surprised. I've done a lot of self-reflection, too. Yeah, as if he thinks. You've confirmed that Kim Namwoon is telling the truth. What? It's true, why won't you believe me? I'm doing my best to atone for the things I've done. I'm even grateful that you killed me. I mean, why? They feed you on time, give you a roof over your head, don't send you to school, and my parents aren't here to nag at me. It's a little hot, but this place is the best. Imagine describing hell like this. Like, what is essentially hell like this? It's a little hot, but this is great. And I get to build miniature robots when I'm bored? He thinks the Titan soldiers are robots. He's playing with the metal ore of the underworld. It's all thanks to you. I'm telling you the truth. I really am grateful. He has a few screws loose. Character Kim Na-moon is taking a liking to you. He definitely does. This is an announcement to all slaves on the first floor. And they're shocked. We'll be conducting a random inspection. Oh, and it's the supervisors talking. They're always pulling that bullshit. They inspect us all the time because they've got nothing better to do. An intruder has entered the underworld. It was reported that a living spirit has crossed the Acheron. And both look shocked. If the Great Death finds out about this, terrible things will happen to you as well. This inspection is to find the vile intruder among us. This is just a formality, so don't be anxious and remain where you are. Damn it, things are progressing faster than I expected. What a bunch of idiots. Even if a living person came here, why would they come to Tartarus of all places? There's no escaping here, right? Hey, mister. What? Yeah. I was just wondering. Were they talking about you just now? They were. Ah, shit. And then, gosh, you really are the master of manipulation. How could you have pretended to be dead all this time? Isn't there any place I can hide here? As if. Where can you hide in a damn prison? Why don't you go hide in that robot over there if you're that desperate? Is that even finished? Not yet. They say there's a problem with its core or something. If it had been completed, I would have ridden that thing to defeat Cerberus and head straight for Hades' palace. Are you really going to hide in that thing? No. That thing is nearly a living organism, so I might end up being digested if I get inside it. Good, because you'll die right away if you go in there. I thought you turned over a new leaf. Only for people who are dead. It was nice seeing you, but too bad. You'll die soon, so I'll be nice to you then. Damn it. Jinghyuk also visited the underworld near the end of the novel. What did he do then, he thinks. Your memory of the novel's been elaborated due to your attribute. Go tell the king of the underworld that I'll be taking Pluto the Titan soldier. And then tell everyone to get lost unless they want to die. And then, that psychopath. He just challenged the judges of Hades head on. Not my problem anymore. Na-moon's just done. That's only possible because Junghyuk's a regressor. I don't have that much power, and I'm not even a regressor. Wait, hold on. Why can't I do what Junghyuk did? Why shouldn't I get caught by the judges? Because I'll become a citizen of the underworld by failing the hidden scenario? Because the judges might try to obliterate me for Hades' sake? He stands up. And then... Who are you? Me. I'm the person you're looking for. And then we have this whoosh past him. And he's grabbed immediately. From behind. Okay, so they don't have to maintain their physical form. They can go intangible. And it starts freezing him. It looks like you're about to obliterate me into non-existence, but I suggest you think again. If you kill me now, you'll end up losing in Gigantomachia for sure. And they're surprised. Go tell the father of the rich knight that I know of a way to complete that Titan soldier. And the ice is still spreading? It's cold. I can feel it seeping through my bones. It reaches his heart. And that's where we end. Man, very good stuff. Again, I love this arc from just a very basic concept on so far. I think it's really, really, really cool. Okay, very good chapter. Let's go read the next one. I'm also really loving Na-moon, so I do hope we get more with them. We're seeing Cerberus now, reacting as they bring Dokja forward. They growl as he walks past. And Na-moon's left. Have fun in hell, Na-moon. He looks surprised. The hidden scenario has been updated. And then, Chapter 22, 3 Promises, Part 7. He sees somebody in astral form waving. Is that going to be Persephone? You'll get lost if you're not careful. Hey, are you there? Yes, I'm on my way. I know you're there. Yes, sir, I'm here. And then, it's not Byung. Are you a new Dokubi? Hello, sir, I'm Young-gi, a low-grade Dokubi. Byung's off tending to business at the administration, so I'm here to fill in. Well, aren't you going to do your job? I'm sorry, sir? The scenario's been updated. Why aren't you keeping me updated? Oh, that's... Sir, how do I update a scenario? What kind of Dokubi asks an incarnation that? Well, Byung told me to ask you if I come across anything I don't know. Just what has Byung gotten me into? I love Byung. I can't even remember now from when I did my ranking. Did I say that... Who did I say was the best? Did I say it was Byung or Soo-young? I don't even remember. They're both so good. Hold on, sir. I'll go ask another Dokubi and... And what? I'm sorry to ask you, but could I display your message backlog? This is my first time working a dispatch job. And then, Constellation, God of Alcohol and Ecstasy, is overjoyed by your suffering. Constellation, Prisoner of the Golden Headbands, excited by your adventure. And he's getting these messages that have probably been popping up this whole time, but he wasn't seeing them. You've been gifted 12,000 coins. 12,000 coins just for showing them Hades' palace? Well, if you think about it, I'm basically broadcasting private property where cameras aren't allowed. We're here. And then... Yeah, he's like, I have a secret to win Gigantomachia. But basically, anyone watching from the constellations could get that info that he's about to give Hades about the soldier. And then, as he steps, he starts reverting to his living self's attire. Interesting. It's been a while since someone set foot in here alive, and you brought some unwanted guests with you. A banquet hall? I can't see because it's too dark. But since we're in Hades' palace and a woman speaking to me from where the lady of the house is supposed to be seated. So... And then, today's going to be a special day. The door closes behind him, and the candles flare up. It's an honor. Queen of the Darkest Spring. Queen of the Darkest Spring. She's the wife of Hades and Queen of the Underworld. Persephone. Alright. You know my nickname. You have great manners for an incarnation. I'm flattered. What's more interesting is, you don't seem to be shaken, despite hearing my true voice. Come to think of it, I don't feel anything, he thinks. Persephone's a constellation that's at least above the rank of a fable. And to think that just a few days ago I had trouble hearing Kim Yusin's voice. I've never had any skill that was activated in full force. And now we see Fourth Wall activated in full force. Maybe it's because I'm meeting a being on a whole nother level, that my subconscious is perceiving this experience as unreal. Yeah, like the Fourth Wall's the strongest it's ever been. He is seeing this as fiction more than ever, because he is talking to a super fictional character, essentially. Sit, Incarnation Kim Dokja. May I ask you a question, if you don't mind? Go on. Is that your true form? Of course not. This is my symbolic form. A mere human such as yourself would not be able to withstand my true form. And he's upset by the answer. Such an awful habit. Perhaps you're not into older women. I think he's upset at incarnations viewing themselves as so highly above humans. That's not the problem. She's assumed the form. Oh, of the old woman who died back then? Of the old lady I couldn't save in the first scenario. If I'm making you uncomfortable, I can assume a different form. And then he looks surprised as she starts changing. And then he's shocked this time as she turns to Sangha. And then these are ending really abruptly on me. Okay, these have been really short. Hold on. I mean, they've been really short dialogue-wise, I guess, but there's just a ton of like really good, really detailed art, so it kind of makes sense. It would still take just as long to make with all the great art. Let's go to at least 115. I might stretch to 116 if it's like super short. We'll see. Either way, let's go read 115. This one just starts us with the title splash. We have Three Promises Part 8. And then we get this again. The old lady's fine. Did she have to turn into Sangha wearing that? Since we don't have much time, let's get right down to business. What about the king of the underworld? Damn it, I guess she's not changing back. And he's blushing. Really? He's blushing for this? I feel like this Sangha is less attractive than the normal Sangha. To me, at least. Huh. Oh well, maybe it's just me. The king is displeased with your sudden visit, so I think it'd be better if you just talk to me today. Well, there's no way one of the major 3 gods of Olympus would talk to some incarnation. I guess this'll have to do. Dionysus told me the gist of it, but it wouldn't hurt to hear what you want in your own words. I want to retrieve someone's soul. I don't know if you've heard, but I'm ready to make a deal. A soul. This reminds me of the past. She cuts into her steak. Souls don't exist in this world. And he reacts. That would make Plato and Aristotle turn in their graves. How can a god say something like that? Those two wouldn't be in their graves, as they became constellations. I'm not here to exchange jokes. Neither am I. Incarnation Kimdokcha. There is no such thing as a soul. That's just an illusion created by man who so desperately want to believe in their continued existence. Then what about the people of the underworld? Are they not souls? They are like this? And then she holds up the meat and eats it. This is premium beef. Why don't you try some? No. Are you going to decline my offer? Yes, I'm sorry, but I must. I'm sure it's delicious. TWSA describes how delicious it is over 12 pages, jeez. So, if souls don't exist, and they are here just as meat or whatever, I wonder if it's not necessarily a soul, but because we're dealing with the idea that a person's story, like somebody like they mentioned, Aristotle dies, and then becomes a constellation. It's the idea of somebody continues their existence. It's the same way some of the constellations weren't, unless they're going to say that all histories were like real and actually happened. The story of somebody becomes the reality of somebody. Persephone wasn't actually a real person from what we know, but because the story of her existed and so many people believed that and kept it going into even modern times, that the idea of her, the fiction of her, is the reality of her. Is it not that they're souls, but even though they're dead, the idea that they died and went to an afterlife is what keeps them in the afterlife? This is because the gods, the constellations, whatever, and the people have the concept of Kim Na-moon as a person who lived and died, then the concept of this person who died ends up in the concept of the afterworld, because anything that anyone believes is, like any fiction, is reality, essentially. I'm sure it's delicious, or is at least potentially reality. I'm sure it's delicious. TWC describes how delicious it is over 12 pages, but at the very end, until his current round ended, Junkyo regretted having eaten the food. Whoever eats the food of the underworld can never go back to the world of the living. Life in the underworld isn't as bad as you think. You can visit the living realm freely, as long as you have the permission of the king. It would be like being in a private military. But the time I served in the military was the worst I could ever ask for. Really. But the men in your country always say, maybe I should have just stayed in the army. So I thought it wasn't a big deal. I must have been mistaken. How does a goddess of a foreign country know so much about Korean men? You'll be treated better than you could ever imagine. The executive officer who wanted me to become a sergeant said something like that too. I bet he didn't offer you a steak, did he? For example, that steak you have before you will immediately make you a sword master. But you can only become a sword master after years and years of arduous training in the other dimensions. he thinks. And that pasta will make you into an archmage who can reign over the continents. The soup, it'll make you a triple S grade hunter. Are you still not going to eat them? If I take a bite of the steak, I'll become more powerful than Junghyuk in an instant. And he thinks about what I'm assuming is maybe the potential outcome. I cannot be weak. I must master the sword. I'll work harder and harder to become stronger. I did it. I've done it. He drops the fork. Is this? Yes, this little piece of meat is what humans believe to be their soul. It must be the memories of someone who used to be a swordmaster. Memories? No. To be precise, it's their story. So again, a person's story is their reality. Like Namun Kim is here because his story exists. Everyone here, when your story is forgotten, you cease to exist, I assume, or your existence gets weaker. But the constellations are here because people from all over the world and all throughout time remember their stories. It's the dish that the constellations love the most. Those who devour stories are story fanatics. This is the true nature of the beings you call constellations. Death is like an ending to a story. Just as a slaughtered cow cannot be revived, dead people cannot come back to life, because their story has ended. But I know there are exceptions. It's all lies, there are no exceptions. Well, here's the thing. Kim Na-moon died, but because he made changes after coming here, and because Dokja was there to observe those changes, then that would say his story has still gone on. Can you swear on the sticks? The Greek gods swear on the sticks when they make a vow. Even Zeus is not exempt from this rule. The soul you refer to is just a miserable pile of stories. Yes, and that pile of stories is what I want. Whoever looks back in the underworld's bound to regret it. You need to learn to cope with something that's already passed by. So she's going to keep denying it, he thinks. My queen, time doesn't just move forward. I thought you'd know that. And then we have this whoosh. And then everything's gone black and white. Look, I can feel a chill running all the way through my soul. How can she deny the existence of souls when I can feel it? She laughs. This is fun. You really are a singularity, as the children of Olympus told me. And then her smile has changed. I could end up dying now if I make the slightest mistake. That's not all I know. I've seen the Titan soldiers that are being built in Tartarus. If you agree to make a deal with me, I could have them built much. I'm not interested, she cuts him off. It's true that Gigantomachia is important, but we'll have no problem completing the Titan soldiers in time. Damn it, I thought that this would definitely work. But there is one thing I want. If you tell me how you know all of that. I can't do that. To be honest, I don't even think I can explain it properly. And she's curious. Just as I thought. Blank's blank is... And he's surprised. Constellation Prisoner of the Golden Headband cannot believe what they're hearing. Constellation Demonic Judge of Fire is surprised. Constellation Scribe of Heaven criticizes the Queen's indiscretion. Constellation Secretive Plotter begins to ponder. Why don't you all be quiet, since you're all guests here? What? What did I just hear? What did you just say? Oh, it's nothing. And then again, it's still being censored for us. Although I can't pronounce it, what she said was filtered to me. All information that's pertinent to an unknown scenario is filtered, but that doesn't apply to those who already have that information. What's going on? There's still information I don't know when I've read TWSA in its entirety. Something, I guess, that just wasn't included in the story. Maybe it's something to do with the author themselves, I would assume. And I actually think, let me see what time it is, what time I'm at. I'll do one more. I'll do 116. I'll do one more. I hope I don't end on a worse cliffhanger doing it this way, but I want to at least see if I can go through this conversation maybe. I do think that Omniscient Reader is at some of its best when it's doing this, though. When we're getting a combination of this meta commentary, the wider world and the questions of existence with an Omniscient Reader, combined with really good character work. Seeing the changes in Kim Nam-woon and how not being a part of the story has affected him, which is also a part of the nature of existence and the sort of meta-narrative of ORV, but also seeing Dokja's journey and his interactions to all of this stuff, because really for us as the Omniscient Reader of Omniscient Reader, what we know is what Dokja gets to know. What we see is what Dokja gets to see. We don't get to learn or see anything from the perspectives other than him generally. So seeing his journey and his thoughts and experiences and what he's feeling right now, like he said, deep down in his soul, is again when ORV is at some of its best. And he's shocked. Although I can't pronounce it, what she just said was filtered to me. All information that's pertinent to an unknown scenario is filtered, but that doesn't apply to those who already have that information. And it seems like the constellations were reacting. So the constellations didn't... Yeah, what she just said was filtered. So it wasn't filtered for the constellations because they're reacting to it, but it was filtered for Dokja. So this is something we're introducing, the idea that though he is a reader, and though there have been things that he knew was going to happen that the constellations didn't know yet, there were things that the constellations know. And again, with the constellations, seemingly from the beginning, he's kind of made them out to be his enemy, like Dokja's main enemy, Dokja's main goal, his seemingly been to overcome or even take down the constellations because of the games they're playing with humans, and the way that they're treating people. But now it's making them a much, much scarier entity in the story than even they already were, because Dokja's big advantage over them was his prescience, and now we're seeing that there are even things that, despite what he knows in the future, there were things that the constellations know about that Dokja doesn't know about, which is giving them a serious leg up on the advantage that he did have. What's going on? There's still information I don't know when I've read TWSA in its entirety. And now we have 3 Promises Part 9. And then it seems like things settle down. Or maybe it's... I'm sorry to say, but my hospitality ends here. The underworld has no reason to make a deal with you. We have other means of obtaining the information you have. And he's surprised. And that looks like a finger by him? I've been holding myself back. But you... It forms into a full hand. Look rather appetizing. She appears before him. And then shudder, that facial expression. What about the consequences you'll have to deal with from harming an incarnation who's partaking in a scenario? Gosh, you really must not know what you're up against. Do you really think I wouldn't be able to handle the aftermath of breaking something like the rule of plausibility? And the constellations who are watching me won't let you do that. And what makes you think that the king of the underworld would fear such insignificant beings? And then messages start popping up. Constellation, prisoner of the golden headman, firmly grabs his staff in a taunting motion. Constellation, demonic judge of fire, unsheathes their mighty sword with a cold gaze. Constellation, secretive plotter, is egging everyone on excitedly. Again, that's something I was thinking too, that Hades is a character that, again, basically everyone around the world, like nearly everyone around the world, probably has some concept of. But then again, while I think that in the West there's probably more people who don't have a concept of, like, Sun Wukong, Asia is extremely, extremely populated, and everyone there, I would assume, has definitely heard of the stories of Sun Wukong. And even again, in modern times in the West, it's pretty common to have at least seen some adaptations of the story. And then, of course, with Uriel being... See, again, Uriel's a questionable one, too, because I'm like, how much do people who aren't that read up on Christian mythology familiar with Uriel? And also, Uriel is not even like an actual, like, straight up Bible Christian thing. It's apocryphal, which means like only like some branches of Christianity, and even then I don't know if Catholicism believes in Uriel or not, so maybe not. I feel like even most Christians wouldn't particularly know much, or might not know much of anything about Uriel. So even though Uriel is an archangel, which would be super powerful, I feel like only people who really study up on like Christian mythology, especially like a lot of the medieval stuff, would be the only people that have as much of an idea. So again, while I would like to think, oh, super cool, Archangel is on like the level of Sun Wukong and on the level of Hades, I feel like Sun Wukong and a Greek god would just be more recognizable, but maybe I'm wrong on that. I see. So you want a taste of the might, of the underworld, or you want to taste the might of the underworld. And certainly, I think while most people would have a concept of Hades, I feel like less people that know less about mythology would have as much of a concept of Persephone. And then we have this swirling energy. Crap, I'm gonna get caught in the middle if I don't do something, he thinks. You said you liked stories. Then how about this for a deal? Constellation Secretive Plotter is listening carefully to what you're about to say. If you help me, I'll show you the most entertaining story in the world. A story to make that steak you had look like junk food in comparison. Are you saying that you'll let me eat you? Well, with a palate like yours, I don't think you'll need another meal just yet. And I'm sure you're full right now, too. She smiles. So, you're going to get what you want without even letting me sample the delicacy. I'll let you, but if you devour me now, you'll live out the rest of your life in regret, in the realization that you might have had the chance to dine on an even finer delicacy if you had held yourself back then. And how are you so sure about that? I can oppose the beings beyond the limits of time without a supporting constellation. I've defeated the returnees without the help of the gods of the other dimensions, and I've also stopped the catastrophes that descended upon our world. Right, I keep forgetting about that too. I'm talking about how important and strong that, again, Christian mythological figures, Greek mythological figures, Eastern mythological figures. I'm talking about how, like, big and important and notable they all are, but I keep forgetting that we have, like, the whole gods of the other dimension to think about. And all of this happened over just 5 scenarios. And even now, I'm here in the underworld as a living spirit, speaking to you. Are you sure you aren't interested in seeing what I might accomplish in the future? You sure have a way with words. But I don't see how this is a deal. Well, you can call it a courtship. What? He smiles. Because I'm serious right now. I can create a story for you that's unlike any of the ones you know. A story to keep you on your toes at all times. I was wrong to think that I could strike a deal with a constellation. Well, constellation in the right mind would agree to something like that with a lowly incarnation. So the only choice I have is to bluff my way out of it. I don't know. A bluff that has a bit of sincerity, at the least. You men are all the same. Oh, and this courtship is to win over the father of the rich knight, not you. So he's going above her head. She laughs. How amusing. I'll give you labor to do. And then, you promised me an entertaining story. If you do just that, I'll find the soul you're here for. A new hidden scenario has been activated. Labor. Come to think of it, Hercules carried out the 12 labors. Your labor will be to bring me the severed head of a serpent. A serpent? You mean the serpent with many heads? The Tier 2 monster, Hydra. I'm not talking about Hydra. People will say that you're imitating Hercules if you did that. The serpent you must kill is elsewhere. But I cannot go too far since I'm in the middle of a scenario. Don't worry, you'll find the serpent at your destination. She snaps her fingers and shows him. So this is how she kept tabs on us. Is that the stage of the 6th scenario? Wait, what's that? Hey, old man, chop down some trees and make a shelter for us. You're good at that kind of thing, aren't you? And is that Pildu with Suyong? I'm in real estate, not property development, you punk. Pildu and Suyong. What's going on? But the 6th scenario couldn't have started yet. So, what do you say? It may be difficult, but anything less would not deserve to be called a labor. I see. The serpent that Persephone wants is... And he gets serious. I'll do it. So I like this, that we're not, like, even though I want to go through this underworld stuff, we're not sticking with it for too long, but instead using it to set up an extra twist to the next main scenario. She's left with the food. Clear the table. These taste so bland. Persephone, why did you do that? Oh my, if it isn't my introvert darling husband. I asked you a question. But this is what you wanted, Hades. I never asked for this. You rarely show any interest in incarnations. But him, I thought you took a liking to him. Was I mistaken? What made you think that? Because you didn't kill him the moment he set foot in the underworld. And Hades stopped speaking. You've always envied Zeus who had Hercules, so I took the initiative to get you what you wanted. I must say I was rather surprised. There were constellations out there with powers that surpassed mine. And to think that they're all chasing after a mere incarnation. The omen of the later days is imminent. Will the later days really come? Probably. But you'll remain by my side even when it does, right? And we get to see just the barest glimpse of the darkness that is Hades. I can't wait to see what story that child will show me. And then he loses the blindfold. And we end there. So I wonder... So I guess Namun is just going to be stuck in the underworld. You know, I mean, he enjoyed it there at least. This was a really good set of chapters. It seems like we got through the underworld stuff. I guess we're probably not going to stick with that much longer. Maybe a couple chapters, but probably not. I think we're just going to go back kind of soonish. And again, well, like I said, we were jumping straight into the bringing Yusung back stuff, but it seems like we are kind of doing a bit before that. Again, I like how it's not just its own thing. We had our own thing here, but now we're like wrapping it into the next main scenario to add a little spice to make that exciting. And I'm just really excited at the constellation stuff. I love how it's a slow burn where we're just getting more and more glimpses of them, more and more influence of them, and it's going to be so hype and exciting when we start seeing some of, like, not like the minor ones we've already seen, but some serious ones. And we're seeing like some of the characters, like I've said, who have been here from the beginning. Secretive Plotter, we don't know who it is. There are a lot of trickster gods in pretty much any mythology, so who knows which one it is, or if it even is any of those. Like, we don't know. Is Secretive Plotter just Dokja from the future who's already read and been through the story and then is using... Is it going to be like one of those circular time kind of things where the only reason that Dokja is able to get as far as he does is because of influence from himself who already made it to the end? So it's like, you know, how did that how does that work? How'd that come to be? Is that going to be how Secretive Plotter works? But again, we have archangels, we have Sun Wukong, we have Hades, a Greek god who's interested, and the gods of Olympus in general being interested with Sangha. So, like, once we get like deep into that stuff, like actually showing it, that's going to be really exciting for the late game. And I hope we actually do get to really see some of that stuff in the late game. I hope that's not something that we're just going to like barely see. But either way, I'll end things here. Thank you so much for watching. It was a bit of a longer one. If you like the video, comment down there to tell me what you thought of these chapters, my first thoughts and reaction. Subscribe for more. Omniscient Reader, much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. If you want a link to the Discord server, it's free and open for anyone. If you'd like to help support the channel by dropping a super thanks down below, it would be very much appreciated. And if you would like to not only help support the channel, but also get One Piece videos a little bit early, get a shout out at the end of every single video, then you can hit join down below to become a member. Go to patreon.com/Haku of the Tubes, or a link will be in the description to become a patron. Thank you so much to people who are already patrons and members. Thank you to Chosen Regular Evan Hawley, Magical Girls, FR Nono, Abyss Knight, JA, DD Band, and Irony. Cherryton students, David Lang, Stephen Folded Ghoul, Slayer candidates, SG and Stance Eater, and Pure Element Pate RDL. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.